Hi everyone! In this brief video, I would like to talk a little bit about the nature of psychotherapy. Of course, it goes by many names: counseling, therapy, mental health work, psychological interventions. But in a basic sense, I'm thinking for beginners here. What would someone need to know when they are first developing an interest in therapy and they want to know more about it? So in this video, I would like to address three questions. What is psychotherapy? Who conducts psychotherapy, and how does one conduct psychotherapy? Okay, so let's jump right in. I've made an attempt at defining therapy in my own words, and you can find many other definitions from other researchers, scholars, and clinicians, but this is my attempt at sort of trying to inclusively bring together as much as possible that I think is included in the family of the mental health interviewing or helping professions in terms of defining what we do. Okay, so here's my definition. Psychotherapy is a healing relationship between two or more people, including a trained professional, built upon communication, aimed at the maximization of mental health for those seeking treatment, occurring within ethical guidelines. Okay, so there are a few important components to that. And that is, there can be variety in terms of how many people, so individuals, couples, families, groups. At least one of the individuals involved in the relationship is trained and ideally licensed or seeking licensure in some way. And that the vehicle is the relationship and communication about the relationship. Right, so one of the key components here is that there is not a surgery taking place, or that there is not necessarily medication, but that relating, communicating, getting to know one another, working with one another interpersonally, that is the vehicle of change, that is the healing component. And of course that it's guided by the ethical principles of one's training profession, right? Whether it's social work, counseling, or psychology, that the trained professional has a set of considerations that they always have in mind. The privacy of the client, for instance, the confidentiality of the treatment, seeking justice, seeking beneficence, seeking to be fair and honest and to represent oneself and one's profession in an appropriate way, while also offering help. Maybe an important part of this is what is not included in that definition. There are many things that are not therapy, or are at least not inherently therapy, right? So prescribing medication might be a part of therapy for some folks, but it's not a definitional part of it for everyone. Homework activities, lying down on a couch, looking at ink blots, all of these things may have their place in certain forms of therapy, but they are not definitional or inherent to what mental health treatment is, broadly speaking. Right, so for beginners, I would really encourage you to think of therapy as a really broad, diverse array of mental health helping modalities and approaches, right, where no one individual style, skill, trait is going to be definitionally a part of all of them, right? So think about it with a lot of variety and a lot of diversity. Okay, secondly, who conducts psychotherapy? I bring this up because my students ask a lot of questions about it, and because there are a number of stereotypes or slight misunderstandings about this. A lot of people think that the only way to end up in a career where you're doing therapy is to seek a doctorate in clinical psychology. And that's actually one of the more selective, more narrow routes to becoming a therapist. There are actually many ways to work in this area. So I'll just list a few of the sorts of professions that have a role in helping and interviewing. They include, of course, psychologists, but there are different types. There are clinical psychologists and counseling psychologists and school psychologists who can all do therapy. Social workers do a ton of therapy, at least in my area. I live in Michigan in the United States. Around here, social workers do more outpatient practice than do clinical psychologists, actually. If you go to any run-of-the-mill outpatient clinic, it's more likely to be staffed primarily by social workers, and a lot of students aren't aware of that. Psychiatrists, of course, do some amount of therapy. Nurse practitioners, marriage and family therapists, coaches, case managers, and to some extent, mentors, clergy. These skills are used by many different types of people. So if you're interested in pursuing a career that involves mental health helping, there are actually many ways to arrive at such an endpoint. Okay, so the short version of that is many different people provide mental health services and psychotherapy. It's, again, a pretty broad, diverse array of folks. Okay, lastly, again, thinking for beginners here, how does one conduct psychotherapy? And I want to step back from any specific modality and not comment on, say, CBT or mindfulness-based approaches or DBT or psychodynamic, interpersonal, existential, humanistic, any of those things, right? Stepping back from all of that, how does one even get started thinking about being a therapist? I've identified 4 things that I think are pretty crucial, and this is not a comprehensive list, right? People could come up with many different kinds of descriptors for the key things, but this is my attempt. Okay, so first is that therapy involves active listening. And by active listening, I mean something more than simply hearing what your client or patients are saying to you, but actively listening. So this means that there's a give and take, that there is a curiosity and a seeking of more detail, asking good questions, waiting for the answers to come, having an empathy with the person that you're working with. And importantly, that you're not just, say, nodding your head or encouraging them to continue, but that you're taking in what they're telling you, kind of weaving together a narrative of how this person makes sense within their context, and then communicating it back to them so that they see that you're understanding. That's a crucial component of active listening, that you're not just taking in, but that you're showing that you get it. So there's a reciprocity there. Okay, secondly, scanning and focusing is an important skill. And by that, I mean sort of perusing different topic areas and issues in the person's life, and then drilling down to the important components of any given issue that might be going on. So scanning, kind of broadly looking through what's happening, and then focusing where you're digging in further to a particular set of issues or events in their life. This is important because even in brief forms of therapy, crisis interventions, or in much longer modalities, you're going to be scanning through various kinds of things and focusing in on what you think is most important. So even something as simple as saying, "Oh, that's fascinating, tell me more about that." You've gone from scanning a part of their life to focusing in a bit more narrowly. So there's kind of a science and an art to how one scans and focuses with a client in order to effectively get at some of the most important and relevant parts of their life that need to be discussed. So your theoretical orientation and your training will, over time, help you develop that skill. But as a beginner, just be thinking, okay, I want to have a variety of components of the conversation that are maybe a bit more upper level, where I'm learning big, broad parts of the client's life. And then I want there to be some that are a bit more focused, where I'm getting the details, the little nuggets of truth inside of what someone's experience was. And then again, actively listening, empathically relating to them about it. Right? Third, I'll note the importance of open-mindedness and curiosity. And along with this goes empathy, humility, multicultural competence, right? But having an open-mindedness to your clients is crucial in any form of therapy. That might sound obvious, but let's consider its opposite real quick, right? So to come at someone with some assumptions or with some stereotypes is going to immediately deflate your ability to build alliance with them, to connect meaningfully, and to endeavor toward a helpful treatment. So really try to actively be an open-minded therapist while you interact with your clients. All right, so this can be enacted in small little ways where you resist judgment about something, where the client is talking about a certain thing they did and maybe you don't feel like it would fit in your life, or maybe you feel that that behavior is problematic or something. Try to hold that back and try to recognize, okay, my reaction to this might be coming from my personal set of values and it may not match their personal set of values. So small little things, and it can involve big things as well, right? So the way that the client relates to the world, their worldview, their political identity, their religious, spiritual identity. Having an ability to not make assumptions, but rather seek knowledge about the person. Most of the other people in this individual or couple or family or group's lives that they encounter are going to be making assumptions about them, are going to be stereotyping them or profiling them or perhaps even having prejudiced reactions to them. So you as the therapist coming at them with more of an open-minded, non-judgmental stance is huge, right? That's a skill set that I believe really comes before many of the other things that we're doing. Okay, before you get into assigning homework, challenging cognitions, looking back at early family life and dynamics, one of the first things you need to bring to the table is open-mindedness. Okay? And fourth, I'll note that therapy is not the same as advice. And in fact, it can be pretty healing for you to refrain from or restrain yourself from the knee-jerk response of wanting to give advice, which is very common for beginners. Okay, so for beginners, if you find yourself wanting to advise or offer solutions right away, don't beat yourself up. That's a normal part of becoming an effective clinician, but know that one of the first things you should be working on is reining that in. Here's why. When we're hearing about someone else's pain and suffering, one of the first things we do is, whether it's conscious or not, is feel uncomfortable with it, right? If we have any ability to empathize, then when we hear about someone else's pain, we start to feel a bit painful and uncomfortable as well, and we want to make it go away. So we come up with solutions, or we tell them what to do. Oh, if I was in your shoes, I would do this. Here's why you may need to pump the brakes on that. You are privileging your own worldview over theirs. You are implicitly sharing this assumption that you are wiser and somehow know more about the human condition and that you would have all the answers. And you might just end up kind of stomping on the therapeutic alliance. Imagine that you're going to therapy, you're seeking someone's professional help, right? It's vulnerable, it's a little uncomfortable to talk about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences and to open yourself up to someone else. And the first thing they do is tell you, oh, well, I would fix it this way. That's not going to come off all that warmly, even if your intent is to be helpful. So my advice there, maybe this is a little bit hypocritical, but my advice is to not give advice and instead take some time to understand their perspective, try and figure out why they felt, said, and thought the things that they did, and maybe work with them to broaden their array of options, right? And not necessarily prescribe one route of behavior, but instead work with them such that they develop the best answer of their own accord, right? That they can come up with a solution on their own that then they are proud of and they feel invested in, and they go back home or back out to their social lives and they enact it in their own way. Okay, so a quick recap of how to do therapy. Be an active listener. Be someone who artfully and scientifically scans and focuses through the key areas of the client's life. Be someone who is open-minded and curious, and through that you can enact empathy and humanness and multicultural inclusivity. And lastly, be someone who resists the urge to give advice and to offer solutions from a sort of I'm wiser, I'm more knowing kind of place. And instead be someone who patiently sits with the discomfort of hearing about pain and suffering. Right? That's probably part of why the person is there. Certainly some folks come to therapy not because they are disordered per se or functioning in a really chaotic or disastrous kind of way, but they want to learn more about themselves. And even in those cases, right? Be someone who resists that urge to give advice. And especially, again, for beginners, this will help you get off on the right foot. This will help you build alliance with your clients and begin to understand them better. Once that's in place, you can begin thinking about different theoretical orientations, skill sets, homeworks, emotionally corrective experiences, and all of that. But we need to lay the groundwork of you being empathic and patient and actively listening. Okay, so I hope this helps. Again, like I said, I'm really aiming this particular video towards beginners, folks who are brand new to the art and science of clinical interviewing and who may just have a lot of questions about how do I even get started, right? So if you're not sure what else to do, ask good questions. Ask questions that start with how and what, and just follow their lead. Wait for them to give responses, ask for elaboration, do your best to try and understand the client's lived experience through their own subjective viewpoint, and that'll give you a lot of connection with them, right? The longer you work in this field, the more skill sets you'll have under your belt, but this set of suggestions is all about laying the groundwork for that. So I hope that's helpful. Again, just to recap the whole video, psychotherapy is a healing relationship. There are many different kinds of professionals who provide and conduct that healing relationship. And some of the things to think about are being active, open-minded, empathic, non-judgmental, and non-advice-giving listeners. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.